100% African event, as President Sisi is always keen on his participation and sponsoring these important events locally and regionally, as the African continent is one of the most significant stations in the Egyptian path and the Egyptian interest. After a while, these meetings held annually will kick off, and in the presence of a number of head of states, and with the 81 bank governors from African states and also from other states, which these are very important meetings concerned with discussing the green transition issues based on the COP27 conclusions and recommendations held here in Sharm el-Sheikh in this conference center in the same hall, based on what was decided for the interest of the African states, which require a lot of support and assistance to try to transition into a green economy and a climate supporting economy. There are sustainable projects for development in Africa, whether in the environment sector or the climate sector and different other sectors. And this time is concerned with providing more investments for African states. And some talked about what should be mobilized of resources for the African states, over $10 billion, not to mention the sustainable development matter in Africa, which require a lot of global support, as Africa is the most impacted by climate change impacts and implications, but they did not have a great share in causing these changes and impacts. So Africa is the global interest right now, and this should be clarified and highlighted in the international scene, to affect Africa positively. This is a common African action. The meetings of the AFDB held annually. This session has an added importance and significance with the Egyptian and sponsorship, as Egypt keen on discussing the African matters on a global scale and the requirements of the African continent to reach sustainable development and achieve the green transition to a green economy that pay attention to the climate needs, not to change the current globe temperature during the upcoming years, due to the climate changes that we are witnessing right now, even witnessed and noted by normal citizens. Everyone agreed that there are climate changes that are very noted, and they should be eliminated and limited during the upcoming years, and this cannot be achieved except with adopting green energy approaches that are less harming to the environment and with less emissions. And this is the true goal for providing what's required for this earth for a better life, and to maintain the ecological systems in different continents and in sea and oceans. And it's also required to eliminate the air polluting resources. And consequently, this different types of pollutions have their impacts on the life of different organisms, as well as the forest fires. So there's a great attention for such matters is inevitable for everyone, and Egypt has led this march by chairing and hosting the COP27, and, and our global pursuit to achieve sustainable development, whether through the conferences held here in Sharm el-Sheikh or the summit action held here in Egypt also. After the COP28 is going to be held in the United Arab Emirates, that is leading a great significant march for climate change issues in the region and in different states in the world, and there is a specialty for Africa here, as Africa needs more support, and these African developing states actually are worthy of support by making the real capacities available, as we are not really contributing to the implications of climate change, and still we are the most affected. Today, many development sectors will be discussed: sustainable development, energy in different forms, renewable energy, clean energy, and there is a tendency to produce green energy, and this requires the transition to a green economy, which requires more support and foundation and infrastructure, and in the financing capabilities, and also the investment sectors in different fields. I think that speaking of this should be based on a real political will and what Egypt leads. When Egypt was the chair of the African Union in 2019, and this conference also is led by Egypt for the interest of the African people, as President Sisi participated in several meetings on the continent level, and many of these conferences were held here in Sharm el-Sheikh, economic and environmental conferences in partnerships also with China, Japan, and EU states. This is an Egyptian voice being transmitted into the world to support Africa. And this support is actually the right of Africa, as we earned to be the center of this support for the development and transition of Africa and enhancing sustainable development in the African continent. After a while, the proceedings of the conference will kick off the 58th annual meetings of the African Development Bank. More than 4,000 participants will be engaging in the proceedings of the event from Africa and from other states. A lot of central bank governors will be participating from 81 states, member states and participant states from Africa and from abroad, from other continents. There are different meetings, and this is the opening session that will kick off after a while. President Sisi will receive his guests and head for a photo, and then they will start the preparation work and the proceedings for this opening session, attended by different international figures, academics, experts, economists in different fields, and a large number of states, a great political momentum environmental and investment momentum that this session is witnessing of these annual meetings. The preparations have already begun in different proceedings. The main event that started supporting African economies and the necessity of providing investments and sustainable development, as Dr. Daniel Mashat from Egypt participated in these events, as well as the central bank governor will participate and deliver a speech at this opening session. The chairperson of the AFDB also will deliver a speech, not to mention the Egyptian speech that stresses the Egyptian keenness on the environment work represented in President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in this significant event. The meetings will start and will continue for 5 days from the 22nd to 26th of May. These are high-profile meetings and that will start today in these consecutive sessions, and then there will be qualitative sessions to address some of the issues, some development issues concerned with investment financing, private sector financing, mobilizing private capitals to the African continent to achieve the development of capabilities and